I am Ethan Miller, a 48-year-old chemical engineer living in Richmond, Virginia. Before, my life was entirely based on logic and science. Growing up in a non-religious family, with my father being an astronomy professor and my mother a neurosurgeon, I was raised in an environment that prioritized reason. Consciousness, in my view, was simply a product of the brain, and death was the absolute end of everything. I often debated with religious people, especially Christians, firmly believing that I had the right understanding of reality. However, everything in my life changed completely on September 12, 2022. It started off like any other day. I was on the roof, carrying out my routine inspection of the solar panels. I had been doing it for months now, following all the safety precautions, feeling confident in my ability to get the job done. It was an autumn morning, crisp and calm, with the leaves starting to turn colors, signaling the arrival of colder weather. My harness was secure, or so I thought, but unbeknownst to me, one of the anchor points holding the safety line had deteriorated over time, slowly weakening without my noticing. The moment I reached for a cluster of leaves that had accumulated, the anchor point gave way. I lost my balance, and before I could even comprehend what was happening, I was falling. My body careened down the roof, and time seemed to slow. I could see individual leaves swirling in the air around me, the ground rushing up to meet me at an alarming speed, and my neighbor's confused face as she looked up from her garden, witnessing the whole scene. It felt as though everything was happening in slow motion, but I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to make it. I hit the ground hard. The pain was instant and overwhelming. I felt a sharp, searing agony that I can't begin to describe, as though my body was on fire, and my breath was knocked out of me. My chest felt like it had been crushed, but worse was yet to come. As I looked around, I saw a metal garden stake, left near the house during our patio renovations, and before I could even react, it pierced my chest. It entered just below my rib cage, scraping against my lung and grazing my heart. The shock was unimaginable. I could hear my neighbor screaming and calling for help, her voice a distant echo as I tried to make sense of what had happened. The pain was so intense that it was hard to focus on anything else. Yet, strangely, in the midst of the agony, there was a sudden clarity in my mind, a thought that seemed almost out of place in such a moment of panic. So, this is how it ends. I remember thinking it with a strange sense of acceptance, as if the finality of it all had just become undeniable. I was declared clinically dead for 8 minutes. In those 8 minutes, the course of my life changed forever. I didn't know it at the time, but I was about to embark on a journey that would utterly shatter everything I thought I knew about reality, consciousness, and the nature of existence itself. Those 8 minutes were more than just a blip in time. They were a portal to a reality I had never imagined, a reality far beyond the limits of science and logic I had once trusted so fully. When I was resuscitated, I didn't just return from the brink of death. I returned to a completely transformed understanding of life itself. What happened during those 8 minutes wasn't just a hallucination caused by lack of oxygen, as I had always believed. It wasn't some random firing of neurons in my brain, as I had arrogantly dismissed the experiences of others who claimed to have had near-death experiences. What I experienced was more real than anything I had ever known. It was a journey that took me beyond the confines of the physical world and into a profound understanding of something far greater than I could have ever imagined. I had always believed that consciousness was simply a byproduct of the brain, and that death was simply the cessation of existence. But what happened to me during those 8 minutes? It was something that no amount of logic or science could explain away. It was a revelation, and the implications of that revelation are still unfolding in my life every single day. I found myself suspended in the air, detached from the physical limitations of my body, looking down at it lying motionless on the ground. The blood was beginning to pool around me, soaking into the earth beneath. My neighbor, Susan, was frantically performing CPR, her hands moving in desperation, trying to revive me. But despite the scene unfolding below, there was no fear, no panic, no anxiety. Instead, I was enveloped by an incredible sense of peace, one that felt as if I had just been released from every constraint, every boundary of the physical world. It was a feeling I could not have imagined before, a calmness so profound that it was almost foreign, like I was no longer limited by the fragility of my body. As I hovered above my body, I felt a growing detachment from the pain I had been in moments earlier. The aches, the burning, the suffocating feeling, all of it was gone. There was nothing but tranquility. I could still see the frantic movements of Susan, her face twisted in concern, but somehow, I wasn't emotionally affected by it. The familiar sights of the world below me, the garden, the houses in the neighborhood, the sky, began to blur and fade. The sense of distance between me and everything I had ever known began to grow, as though I was being drawn away from the earthly plane into something far more expansive, far more profound. It wasn't darkness that enveloped me. It wasn't an empty void as I had always expected death to be. Instead, I was pulled into a different realm altogether, one unlike anything I had ever seen or could have even conceived. The transition from the earthly world was smooth, almost as though I was gliding through a veil into a higher dimension. The air was thick with light, brilliant, radiant light that seemed to pulsate with life. This wasn't the kind of light you see from the sun or the stars. It was something altogether different, something pure, almost tangible in its intensity. Colors around me were unlike any I had seen in the physical world. They were vivid, alive, changing constantly in ways I couldn't understand, but they felt deeply meaningful. Every hue, every shift in the light seemed to hold some kind of significance, like the very essence of existence was encoded in the vibrancy of the colors around me. It was as if the entire space, every particle of this new realm, was pulsing with awareness, with consciousness, in a way that was beyond comprehension. And as I moved deeper into this radiant realm, I felt my own consciousness expand, as if the limits of what I could understand had been lifted. I was no longer confined to the narrow focus of a human mind. Instead, I was experiencing a limitless awareness, a profound understanding of everything around me. The boundaries between me and the space around me began to blur. It was no longer clear where my awareness ended and the environment began. I felt as if I was becoming one with everything in this realm. The light, the colors, the energy, all of it seemed to flow through me and with me, as if my consciousness had been woven into the very fabric of this new reality. And in that moment, I realized something that would forever change my understanding of existence. I was not just observing this realm. I was part of it, I was a part of something far greater than I could have ever imagined. There was no sense of time, no ticking of a clock, no awareness of the passing of minutes or hours. Everything was eternal, infinite, as if I had stepped outside of the limitations of the physical world and into a place where only pure consciousness existed. The normal constraints of life, birth, aging, death seemed irrelevant here. What mattered now was simply being, experiencing, understanding. The overwhelming sense of peace deepened as I moved further into this space. I was free, not just from my body, but from the concerns and limitations that had defined my life. For the first time, I felt completely unburdened, completely whole. In this space, there was no need to strive, no need to worry, no need to prove anything. There was just pure existence, pure awareness, and pure connection to everything around me. In this higher state of awareness, I could feel the presence of something beyond me, something vast and loving. It was not a figure in the way we think of figures or beings in the physical world. It wasn't anthropomorphic or bound by any human form. It was a presence, a force of love and wisdom, so immense that it made everything else in the realm seem small by comparison. Yet somehow I knew that I was infinitely valued within this presence. This love radiated through everything, through the very core of this realm, and I felt it wash over me, filling every part of my being. I was not alone in this space. As I looked around, I became aware of other beings, entities of light and intelligence, not like the angels I had once mocked, but beings who existed as pure awareness, embodying love and truth. They were not physical beings but entities that existed beyond the physical, with an intelligence that far surpassed anything I had ever understood. These beings, though non-corporeal, exuded a presence that was both overwhelmingly powerful and tender at the same time. They were not just observing. They were part of the very fabric of this realm, as interconnected with it as I now felt. One of these beings approached me, and I understood something fundamental in that moment, something that had always eluded me. Consciousness, I realized, was not something produced by the brain, as I had always believed. Instead, the brain was merely a receiver, a channel through which consciousness filtered into the physical world. What I had always understood as the limits of human understanding were, in fact, just the limitations of the physical body. True consciousness, the kind I was experiencing now, was vast, infinite, and all-encompassing. It was a connection to something far beyond human comprehension. I was shown the greater reality, the one I had been blind to while living in my physical form. I saw that everything in this world, everything in the universe, was part of a grand design, interconnected in ways that no science or logic could ever fully explain. And in that moment, I knew that this was only a glimpse, a tiny fraction of the truth, but it was enough to forever alter my understanding of existence. In this extraordinary and radiant realm, I was not alone. Surrounding me were beings of light, pure, ethereal entities that seemed to transcend the very idea of physical existence. They radiated an intelligence so vast and a presence so profound that they seemed to encompass the entire universe. There was no form as we understand it in the physical world, no shape or human-like features. They were beings of pure energy, of light, whose very essence exuded love, wisdom, and boundless understanding. These beings communicated with me not through words, but through thought itself. It was a kind of direct transmission of knowledge and understanding, a sharing of awareness that transcended the limitations of language. There were no barriers between us, no confusion, no distance. It was as if my thoughts and theirs were interwoven, as if we were one consciousness in that moment, fully connected and aligned. Their communication wasn't simply a transfer of information. It was an experience that resonated deeply within me, touching a part of my soul that had never been reached before. One of these beings, more radiant and wise than I could have ever imagined, took the lead in guiding me through this otherworldly realm. It wasn't just guiding me through space, it was guiding me toward understanding, pulling back the veil of ignorance I had carried all my life. As it led me forward, I realized something that would change everything I thought I knew about life, about reality, and about the nature of consciousness itself. The being helped me to see that the truth I had spent my life denying was not only real but foundational to all of existence. Consciousness is not a product of the brain, as I had once believed. It is the very essence of reality itself, the core fabric from which all things are made. This revelation was so overwhelming that it took my breath away. I had always believed that consciousness was something created by the brain, a byproduct of neural activity, a temporary experience that ceased when the body died. But now, standing in this realm, I could see that I had been wrong. Consciousness wasn't created by the brain. The brain was simply a receiver, a mechanism that filtered and focused consciousness into the physical world. But the true nature of consciousness, its infinite, boundless essence, existed beyond the physical body. It was a universal force, flowing through everything, connecting all beings, all life, and all matter. As I took in this revelation, I felt my awareness expand even further. It was as if the boundaries of my mind had dissolved, and I was becoming one with everything around me. The being of light showed me that everything I had ever known, everything I had believed, was just a small fraction of the larger truth. The material world, with all its physical laws and structures, was just the surface. The deeper layers of reality were hidden from us, not because they were unreachable, but because our human minds were not designed to perceive them fully. I felt, in that moment, an overwhelming sense of understanding, an awareness that stretched beyond the limits of time and space, beyond what I had ever thought possible. And then, as I stood in the presence of this being, something even more profound happened. I felt a presence, not just around me, but within me, a presence so immense and so full of love that it filled every part of my being. It was as though I was being bathed in light, not just the physical light of the realm, but in a spiritual light that went deeper than anything I could comprehend. This was the force of creation, the source of all things. And in that moment, I knew without a doubt that this was God, but not the God I had rejected, not the anthropomorphic deity I had mocked. No, this was something infinitely greater, something beyond the confines of human understanding. This was the eternal, infinite reality that holds everything together. This was the purest form of love, truth, and wisdom, radiating throughout the universe and beyond it. I understood, for the first time, that God was not separate from us, not distant or unreachable. God was the very fabric of existence, permeating everything, and yet transcending everything. I could feel the profound connection between all life, all consciousness, all existence, and I knew that this love, this truth, was the ultimate reality that we all come from and return to. And in that moment, I realized how utterly mistaken I had been, how deeply I had misunderstood the nature of God, of life, and of consciousness. What I had rejected all my life was the very truth that had been waiting for me all along. In this vast, radiant realm, I was revealed a truth so profound that it reshaped everything I had ever believed. The story of Jesus Christ, I was shown, is not merely a historical event or a religious tale. It is an eternal pattern, woven into the very fabric of the universe, a divine truth that transcends time and space. The teachings of Christ are not just lessons of morality or spiritual guidance. They are the key to understanding the very structure of reality itself. This divine narrative, with its themes of sacrifice, love, and redemption, is a pattern that resonates throughout creation, touching every corner of existence, both physical and spiritual. I was shown that Jesus' life and message are not confined to a specific time or place. They are universal principles, eternally relevant, woven into the very nature of the universe. In a sense, the story of Christ is not a story at all. It's a living reality that shapes the laws of existence. It's a divine template that governs the way the universe operates, a constant and unchanging truth. It is through Christ that the eternal and the temporal meet, where the divine and the human intersect. As this revelation unfolded, I was shown visions of souls after death, each journeying in their own way according to the choices they had made during their lives. Some souls moved toward the light, drawn by an overwhelming pull of love and truth. These were souls whose hearts were open, whose spirits had embraced the divine, and who sought to return to the source of all creation. They walked toward the light with grace, peace, and a sense of profound understanding. The light was not merely a beacon, but a force of love and truth that welcomed them back home, to the eternal reality that existed beyond their mortal existence. But not all souls were drawn to the light. Others turned away, their paths obscured by pride, fear, or attachment to false beliefs. I watched as some souls shrank away from the light, unwilling or unable to let go of the illusions they had clung to during their earthly lives. Their hearts were closed, their minds filled with confusion and uncertainty. These souls, I realized, had chosen to remain in darkness, unwilling to embrace the truth that was right before them. This was not a punishment, but a consequence of their own choices, the natural outcome of turning away from the light that calls all of creation back to its divine source. What struck me most profoundly in these visions was the realization that every single thought, every word, every action, and every belief we hold during our earthly lives leaves an imprint on our eternal journey. It was not just that we are judged after death, it was that our lives, our choices, are a continuous, ever-unfolding process of alignment with either truth or falsehood. Every moment of our lives, every decision, no matter how seemingly small or insignificant, has an eternal consequence. It is as if each choice we make is like a stone dropped into a still pond, creating ripples that extend far beyond what we can comprehend. I saw that nothing in life, nothing we do, is without significance. Even the smallest moments, the ones we might think are trivial, create lasting effects. Our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions all contribute to shaping our eternal trajectory. I saw that every moment spent rejecting the truth, every moment we refuse to acknowledge the divine presence in our lives, has lasting repercussions, not as a form of punishment, but as a natural result of choosing darkness over light. I understood that sin was not merely a set of moral rules imposed upon us. It was the natural consequence of turning away from the truth, of rejecting the love that is constantly being offered to us. As I continued to witness these revelations, I began to understand that the divine truth, the light that calls all souls, is not hidden, not reserved for a select few. It is available to everyone, in every moment of our lives. But it is up to each soul to make the choice to walk toward that light, to accept the truth that is always present. The light is not forceful. It does not push or demand. It simply exists, waiting for us to choose it, to turn toward it. But the more we resist, the harder it becomes to see, to hear, or to embrace. I saw that every soul, regardless of their past, has the opportunity to choose. It is a choice, not imposed from without, but made from within. It is a choice to embrace the truth, to turn toward the light, and to accept the divine love that is always available. But the more one invests in turning away from the truth, the more difficult it becomes to perceive the light, to hear the call, and to embrace the divine reality that lies beyond the physical world. This is the divine gift and challenge, that we have the ability to choose. And in that choice lies the key to our eternal journey. No one is forced into darkness. No one is condemned. The truth is available to all, but it is through our own choices that we either move toward it or away from it. The choice is always ours, and that choice shapes our eternity. And in the final, most profound revelation, I understood that this eternal truth, the divine love, the light that calls to every soul, is not an abstract concept. It is not a distant, impersonal force. It is the very essence of God, the ultimate reality that sustains all things. I realized that this love, this truth, is the foundation of everything. It is the very energy that holds the universe together, the force that flows through everything, through every living being, through every moment of existence. And it is this love, this divine truth, that we are all ultimately returning to. This realization filled me with both awe and peace. The truth was clear, unshakable, and eternally relevant, and it was a truth that I had rejected all my life. But now, standing in the presence of divine light, I knew that it was the foundation of all existence, the key to understanding life, death, and the eternal journey of the soul. When I woke up after the surgery, I realized I had been given a second chance, not just to live, but to share what I had witnessed. I first told my wife, Amelia, though initially shocked. She could feel the truth in my words, and the change in me was undeniable. Her faith, which had been dormant, began to stir again, and we started to reconnect on a deeper spiritual level. However, sharing with our children, Clara and Ben, was harder. They had grown up in a secular household and struggled to accept what I was telling them. Clara, studying cognitive science, tried to rationalize my experience, suggesting it was just a result of oxygen deprivation. Ben listened in silence, but I could sense his discomfort. It was difficult for me, but I understood that they needed to come to their own understanding, in their own time. I knew my mission wasn't just to tell my story, but to live it. The truth I had been shown couldn't be forced upon anyone. It had to be experienced personally. As I continued to share my journey with others, I connected with people searching for the same truths. I knew my scientific background could help bridge the gap between physical and spiritual realities, and I embraced the responsibility to guide others toward the deeper understanding I had gained. When I returned to work, I began looking for ways to integrate what I had learned into my scientific career. I explored how prayer and consciousness could influence matter, the relationship between consciousness and quantum mechanics, and the impact of spiritual energy on biological systems. I realized that science and faith were not in conflict, but actually complemented each other. I started writing a blog, sharing my story, and the response was overwhelming. People seeking truth began reaching out to me, and I found a community of like-minded individuals eager to understand the deeper connections between science and spirituality. But my journey wasn't without its challenges. I faced criticism from both the scientific community and some religious circles. However, I came to understand that my mission wasn't to please everyone. It was to remain faithful to the truth I had witnessed, and to share that truth, no matter the opposition. Through my profound experience, I have come to understand several key truths that have completely transformed my view of the world. Truth is not subjective or dependent on personal beliefs. It is eternal, unchanging, and exists independently of our perceptions. It transcends time, culture, and individual experience, remaining constant regardless of how we interpret it. I have learned that truth is the foundation of all existence, the unshakable reality that governs everything, whether we recognize it or not. We are given only one life in this physical realm to make a choice, to walk toward the light or turn away from it. Every decision, every thought, every action we take has an eternal impact. The choices we make today shape our future, not just in this life, but for all eternity. We cannot afford to ignore this responsibility or take it for granted, as each moment matters far more than we realize. Love is the very essence of the universe. It is the force that connects all things, the energy that sustains life, and the ultimate truth of our existence. Every act of love, no matter how small, reverberates through the universe, leaving lasting consequences that extend far beyond what we can comprehend. I have come to understand that love is not just an emotion. It is the very core of creation, the principle by which everything in existence operates. I am no longer the person I once was, the skeptic, the proud atheist who dismissed everything beyond the physical world. My eyes have been opened, and I now stand as a witness to the eternal truth. I have been called to live in alignment with that truth, to embrace love and light in ways I never thought possible. My mission now is to build a bridge between science and spirituality, to show others that these two realms are not opposed, but rather complementary and interconnected. I am dedicated to helping others discover the path back to the light, to embrace the love and truth that I once rejected, and to live a life that reflects the profound understanding I now carry. My journey has just begun, and I am committed to sharing these truths with anyone willing to listen, knowing that the light and love I have discovered are available to all who seek it. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to continue sharing these powerful stories and creating a space for open, heartfelt conversations. Click the notification bell so you're always updated when we post new content. Together, let's explore the unseen, celebrate the miraculous, and inspire one another to live with love, faith, and wonder